Okay, so this is part 2 of Notes 13b. This is going to focus on box 3 and box 4, domain and range. So the first thing we have, it says write a verbal description of the domain and a verbal description of the range. So let me just do one for domain. Okay, domain is talking about your x values from x to y, side to side basically. So if you notice the graph, and I'll go ahead and highlight it in blue, it's basically from 4 all the way to 8, right? Now, the only thing, I don't know if you notice, but on the 4, this one, we call that a closed circle, okay? And this one, we call that an open circle. So when it's a closed circle, it means it includes the number. Includes it, it's part of it. When it's an open circle, it excludes it. Okay, so the domain is from 4 to 8, but it excludes 8 and includes 4. Okay. My range follows the same idea, right? Range follows the same idea, but this time we're talking about up and down basically. So the lowest point is at 2 and the highest point is at 8. And the same thing follows as before. It just happens that we have a closed circle, open circle here, and a closed circle here, right? So my range is from 2 to 8. It excludes 2, but it includes 8. So I'm just going to put from 2 to 8, but it excludes 2 and includes 8. Alright, so again, if you guys see a closed circle, like the one, like the 8, right here, and let me circle it in green. If you guys see a closed circle, it means that number is part of the solution, is part of the answer. Okay, if it's open, and let me do it in orange, if it's open like this one, it means it's not that number is not part of the solution. Okay, all right, so it says write a compound inequality for the domain, and we're gonna be kind of introducing you guys to set notation. All right, so don't be confused when you see that word set notation. It's kind of what you guys have been seeing with Mr. Casares. So most of the time, or kind of like side note, then these are side notes for you. You guys have less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay, now these two right here, those are closed circles. So whenever you have a closed circle, that's what you're going to use. Whenever you have less than or greater than, you're going to have open circle. Okay, now for these in particular, and I'll be color coding them again. So I have 4 as my least number. Okay, then x would actually represent this line side to side. So if you guys see me writing it in blue, I'll delete it right now. And then it goes all the way to positive 8. Okay, so basically you're wondering, how did you get 4 and 8? 4 is right here, 8's right here. X represents everything in between. Okay, X is not 6, it represents everything in between, which could be 6. Now, on the 4, if I go to the 4, what kind of circle do we have? We have a closed circle, right? Therefore, I'm going to be using my less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. X has to be bigger than 4 because X is in between 4 and 8, so that is going to be less than or equal to. Okay? Now looking at the 8, we have a closed circle. We have an open circle. Therefore, we're going to use the less than or equal to, and this is going to be less than, because X has to be less than 8. So X can be any number between 4 and 8, any number. It could be 4, but it cannot be 8. So if it's 7.99, that's fine. If it's 8.01 or exactly 8, that's not a solution. All right. Now going for the range is basically the same thing, but range now we're talking about the top and bottom, right? Going up and down. So the lowest number that we can have as a y value is 2, and the highest y value that we can have is 8. Right in between, we're going to have the variable y, okay, because we're talking about range. When we're talking about range, we're talking about movement along the y-axis. Now, for the 2, it's an open circle. That means we're going to have less than or greater than. Okay, since y is literally the shaded region right here in between, y has to be bigger than 2. So that means that little crocodile is trying to eat the 2. For the 8, okay, for the 8, it's a closed circle, so we're going to be using less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay, and again, y has to be less than 8 because it cannot go over it. So that's going to be less than or equal to. Okay, again, that's my domain and my range. That's kind of like, that is, we are missing a piece for set notation, but that is introducing you guys to set notation. Okay, this is box 3. We're going to go to box. Alright, so we're going to do domain. Again, domain is talking about your x values. So your lowest x value to your highest x value. Okay, side to side, and so that means it is from -3 to 1. It includes 1 but excludes 3, and that's -3. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason it excludes it, it's because it's an open circle. So you're like, why does it include? Because it's an open. Why does it include 1? Because it's closed. Okay, your range, all right, your range is your y values, up and down. Now pay attention, because this is going to be confusing for some of you guys. Your range is the lowest, right, to the highest, basically, or the highest to lowest. In this case, we go from -4 being the lowest to the highest, which is 0. Okay, so pay attention to my range. My range is from -4 to 0 and includes -4 and 0. And you guys are probably wondering, wait, Mr. Franco, I get why it includes the -4 because it's a closed circle. But why does it include 0 if it's an open circle? Keep in mind, yes, right there, it doesn't include it. But guess what? Look at it right here. Right there is technically a closed circle. It is touching the x-axis, or when y is equal to 0. So that means that's a closed circle. It includes it. Okay. So make sure that you guys pay attention to every single point or section of the graph. Okay? All right. So my compound inequality, let's do my domain first. Again, it goes from -3, x in between, all the way to +1. Okay? Because it doesn't include -3, that's going to be just less than. And for x, because it includes it, it's going to be less than or equal to. Okay? My range, all right, my range is basically from the lowest, which is -4, my variable is y, to my highest, which is 0. And again, in this case, it includes both -4 and 0, so we have less than or equal to, less than or equal to. Okay? And that's it for the notes, ladies and gentlemen. All right? I am going to give you guys, just like in part 1, some more examples. Again, you do not have to copy them. It's just examples. If you guys are still having issues with this, it is examples to help your understanding a little bit more and your practice. So again, do not copy. We're gonna do the domain and range. I'm gonna do the domain in red, in blue. And I'm going to do the range in red, okay? Again, you do not have to copy these. These are just extra examples. So for my domain, if you guys notice, my domain is from x moving side to side, so that is -8 all the way to +2. All right, so I have -8, x in between, and +2. All right, if you guys are writing your inequalities in the correct order and your numbers in the correct order, this is a trick. Okay, this is a trick, and regardless of it, if it includes the equal sign or it doesn't, it's always going to be less than or equal to. Okay, always. So all you have to focus is basically for the -8, right? What kind of circle do we have? And that is open. Because it's open, it's less than. On the -2, it's closed, right? And because it's closed, it's going to be less than or equal to. Done. Same thing for the range, right? If I go to the range, now we're talking from the lowest, which is -4, y in between, to the highest, which is +2. And again, this one is closed and this one is open. So where -4 is at, it's open, so that means it's going to be less than. Where +2 is at, it's closed, so that's going to be less than or equal to. And I'm done. Again, this is a shortcut, okay? Or not a shortcut, but technically these are basically the rules that a lot of people don't tell you. If you're doing it correctly and you have your numbers from least to greatest, it is always going to be less than or equal to. Okay, so all you have to focus is that open circle or closed circle. All right. Again, another example. Do not have to copy. So let's go over domain. Right. So we have -15 all the way to +3. This one is closed and this one's open. So we have -15, x in between, and +3. Because it's closed, it's going to be less than or equal to, and because it's open, it's going to be less than. Done for my domain. Now my range. Right? From the lowest to the highest. All right. So again, my domain, negative 28 y, because I'm using my y variable, and it goes all the way up to negative 4. Now because negative 28 is closed, it is less than or equal to, and positive 4, I'm sorry, negative 4, it's open, so it's just less than. All right, next one. This one's a little bit easier than the other ones. So domain, right, goes from negative 16x to positive 16. Okay, because this one's open circle, that's going to be less than, because this one's closed circle, so let me write open, closed, that's going to be less than or equal to, right? Now I'm going to do the range, goes from negative 20 to y to all the way to 20. Again, because this one is still closed, that is less than or equal to, and this one is open, that is less than. Notice how I did a lot less writing on my graph purposely to make sure that you guys are looking at the graph. All right, example, and then we're done. Okay, one more. So domain, right, we go from 3 to 24. Again, in between we have our x. Now notice that both of these are open. All right, this one's open and this one's open, and that's fine. We can have both of them be open. So that means this is less than and this is less than. That means it does not include 3 and 24 as solutions. Anything in there is a solution. Okay, for my range, all right, same thing from the lowest, which is 2, y in between, to the highest, which is 14. And they remain as open, and they remain as open, so that's going to be less than or less than. Okay, so we have 2 less than y less than 14. So that means your range is anything between 2 and 14, but it does not include 2, it does not include 14. All right, and last but not least, your handout is posted. All right, you have 4 problems. Yeah, if you guys remember, the notes was done kind of butterfly on the left and right side of your notes for the first time. You flip the page over and you're going to use the left side and the right side again to do your handout for this one. And you guys do have an IXL this week, and it's up here, right? It's up to a score of 70. All right, it is written here just so that you guys know that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have questions, don't forget to join us Tuesdays and Thursdays for tutoring from 3 to 4.